So this next video is going to talk about different styles that we can apply to our navigation bar to change it from simple little anchor tags into an unordered list. As you can see in the code on the left, there's an unordered list, and what it looks like on the right, which is how it's displaying, into something that looks nice and attractive, such as buttons for your navigation bar. So if you've not yet downloaded the data files for the chapter, please go into the current module, download the zip file, unzip the file, and open up the file that's called 3-nav buttons. In addition, you're also going to want to open up the file that is called index within the Lighthouse folder as well. So that's going to be the one that looks like this, and it's called, yes, it's in the folder called 4-Lighthouse. That's our fourth example, and the file is called index. All right, and looking at the buttons that we have right here, we're going to take the opportunity to stylize these buttons just a smidge. So a couple things we're going to do, if you watch the previous example or the previous video, one of the first things we'd like to add into our CSS is going to be that wild card, which is an asterisk, and then the curly brace, and we're going to go into box dash sizing, and then we're going to say border box. And again, the reason for this is because the buttons that we're about to create on the right are going to have padding and margin as well as a border, and so we don't want it to adjust the overall width of things. We want to make sure that when we provide a size, that is the size in which the button actually will be. In doing so right now, if I were to save and refresh this file, nothing would actually change on the right hand side since we don't have any padding, borders, or boxes created quite yet. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to also turn off the visual display of those bullet points. Okay, and so to do this, we want to make sure that if we say UL for unordered list, and then we say list dash style dash type, and we specify none, this will actually work. However, this is going to affect all unordered lists within our web pages. So we want to come back over to our CSS and make sure we prefix it by saying only unordered lists that are within a nav container are going to take on this style. Okay? So for example, if I were to take this exact same unordered list, take it outside of the body, maybe put it right here just to prove to you the differences between the two. This one's going to be a paragraph, not in the nav bar. Okay. Oops. Okay. So let's save these two differences. So up here, once again, to reiterate what I'm doing is I'm showing that when I have the nav space UL, the UL is a descendant selector to the nav, turn off the bullet points. However, when it's not within a nav, then it will have the bullet points there. And so you can see the differences between the two. All right, that's great. Next thing we want to do is change the display of this navigation bar from being vertical to horizontal. Pretty easy to do. Once again, we're going to specify that we want to do this within the nav and then do for the list items. Okay, so the list item is going to take on a display type, a display of inline. Okay, so let's save this, and you're going to see these anchor tags go from vertical to horizontal, and here they go across. So let's take a look over here in our PowerPoint slides what we're doing with the display inline versus display inline block. List items themselves are going to be block level elements, and so we can continue to specify that they're going to be an inline block, so that way that whole area that is around the area of the actual button is a block level element. This will again pick up on width specifications as well as any space that's outside of the actual button you can see is not clickable, but when we display it as an inline block, and the button itself is bigger than the hyperlink itself, that whole area will become clickable. As you can see, what we just did there is we made these inline elements, and so it basically will render it as an inline element. Even though it is once considered a block level element, you best state that you want inline block versus inline if you want it to be a block level element, even though it came in as a block level element from the very beginning. All right, next thing that we're going to do is we are going to specify changes to our anchor tags. Okay, so understand that the anchor tag that's within the nav has its own set of properties separate from the actual nav. Remember, the nav container is just a block level container, very similar and no different from a div or the header or the main or the footer. It has properties that you can do to it, such as background color or font color that goes inside of it, height and width, background images. Those are properties specific to containers versus what we're about to do is the anchor tags that are inside of the nav. So once again, please prefix it with the nav and then do the A for the anchor. And so we're going to take a step on through some of the different things we can do to the actual anchor tags themselves. So first things, let's give it a border. We know that borders always require us to have 3 properties. So I'm going to do 2 pixels solid, and let's just do black. So that is the 0, 0, 0. So we'll save this and refresh. You can now see what we're looking at. Okay, so this hopefully gives you more clarity as to what we're about to do here. Let's also come back up to the inline and change this, as I'd mentioned, to inline block, because we want to make sure that these stay block level elements even though they're inline. Again, refreshing it makes no difference at this point. Very good. Coming back to the anchor tag, now let's specify that we want the anchor tags to actually be block level elements as well. So we'll say display. Now if I say block, it's going to try to make them vertical. Let's not do that, but let's ensure that we do an inline dash block and save that. And again, there should be no changes that really occur other than the fact that it's a block level element. And so you saw that there's a little slight adjustments taking place. But once we specify that the anchors, which are normally text level elements, not block level elements or inline level, we're going to now give it a width. So let's give it a width of, let's go with 8 EMs and see what that looks like. All right, maybe too big. We can always adjust it. Maybe we'll come down to 7 EMs. And a lot of it is just trial and error. See if that works. That looks like it's going to work out pretty well. The next thing we want to do, as you can probably see, is all the content is on the left. And so let's do a text dash align and do center. And while we're in here, let's also do text dash decoration. As you know from chapter 4, or previous chapter, that we specified the text decoration to none to get rid of that underline underneath these links. All right, so we've gotten rid of the underline, and now the content itself is nice and centered within the box. All right, so let's also specify our background color. Now, again, the background color is best to do on the anchor tag, so it fills up the whole box. And because, again, it's an inline block level, it will fill up the whole box because of it being specified as a block. If you don't specify it being an inline block or a block in general, the only area that is going to pick up on the background color is going to be behind the text itself, not the whole container. So we took care of that. So let's do a background color. And let's give it a light, let's go with gray. Let's see if that's light enough. All right, so that's light enough. Perfect. Also, while we're at it, let's also give it a font color. So a font color is just simply color. And let's go with white. So #FFF, save that. And refresh. You can kind of see it. Maybe not my best of colors. Lastly, let's go through and give ourselves a little bit of padding. You can see that we need an increase in padding on the top of them, not so much on the left or on the right. So we can do padding, and we can do, let's say, 5 pixels on the top. We'll do 0 for the left and right, and then let's do 5 pixels on the bottom. And that looks pretty good. So hopefully that explains some of the different CSS properties that you can assign to anchor tags and how to go about making this now a very attractive button. And you can see the whole area across is clickable. It's not just the letters themselves, because once again, the display of the anchor was specified to inline block, and that is how we're able to achieve that.